Are you looking to see if ClickUp is right for your business? Or maybe you already know and you're brand new to ClickUp. Well, in this video, I'm going to be walking through the step-by-step instructions you need to take to get ClickUp up and running for your business. Let's get started. All right, so the first thing obviously to cover as we begin this is how to actually go and set up your ClickUp Workspace. So that's relatively easy. If you've already done this, feel free to skip to the next part of this video, but all you need to do is go to the ClickUp homepage here and you'll see Get Started, it's free, or you can go up here and sign up like that as well. So once you do that, you're going to click on it and it's going to take you through sort of a form to kind of go through to get your workspace all set up. In addition, if you come here to the pricing plans, as it says, you can just work on the free forever plan if you don't want to pay for it. If you're just using this for personal use, that's perfectly fine. You can just use the free forever plan. However, if you're a business and you're going to be inviting your team members into ClickUp, you might want to think about going into the limited business or enterprise plan. You can read about which each of those include down below, or get in touch with ClickUp Sales if you want. But if you want to kind of our thoughts on which pricing plan is right for you, we do have an article on our website, which I'll include in the video description, as well as on the top right corner of this video that you can kind of read through, determine why would I upgrade to the next option. So think about things like custom capacity in the workload view, or additional automations inside of ClickUp, or even conditional logic and forms. Maybe you need those inside of your workspace. So this is going to kind of walk through what are those features that are definitely most helpful when you do upgrade to the next pricing plan. So feel free to go through this article and read it if that's helpful for you. But after you go, and again, as you set this up, you'll click sign up and it's going to, again, take you through this little form to go ahead and get your workspace all set up. Once that is done, you're going to have your fresh new ClickUp workspace. And the beauty of ClickUp is that it is a blank canvas, and you can really set this up really however you want. You can build it very custom to your business, or if it's just for personal use, you can do that as well. So that's really the pro and con to ClickUp, is how customizable it is. If you jump in here and you have no idea what you're doing, then it can be very hard to get set up correctly at the start. Obviously, as time goes on, you can optimize it and adjust it. But you just want to be careful when you do set it up, because there's a lot that goes into building it to really get the visibility on the other end of what you're looking for here. So before I jump into too much here of actually setting up all of our work here inside of ClickUp, there's a few things you want to do sort of within your personal settings to make sure it's all set up and ready to go for you. So here, as we can see at the top right corner, are sort of my little face here, my personal settings. I'm going to go through and I can either go right to my notification settings or click on my settings. You're going to want to make sure you edit these. So I'll go through those as well so that you don't get a ton of notifications to your email. But as you'll see, you'll jump into your settings. You can go through some of these personal things like setting up two-factor authentication for you, adjusting your color theme, adjusting your language, your time zone, so on and so forth, all the way down to your preferences. So you want to go through these and kind of read through all of them to figure out what you want turned on versus what you don't. One of the big ones is going to be hotkeys. Hotkeys are great for some people, maybe not others. I love them because I can go into ClickUp and I can click things like T on my keyboard or S. And if I click T, that's going to allow me to create a task really quickly. If I click S, I can automatically search. So I don't have to use my mouse for that. I can just use my keyboard and pull all that stuff up. However, some people get a little annoyed of them if you're not used to it. So just take note of that. You can turn that on or off. Additionally, dark mode versus light mode. Really, who are you? You want to go to the dark side of ClickUp, you can turn on dark mode. Some people have a big preference on that. I typically use light mode in most of my videos, but dark mode is obviously a little bit easier on the eyes. So you can adjust that if you want, but feel free to go through all these preferences and figure out what you want to have in there. In addition, these are going to be your personal settings. You're going to want to go through notifications here as well. So notifications are the biggest thing that I can stress the importance of as you go and set up your ClickUp. If you're a new user in the system, or if you're going to actually build it out for your team here, you want to make sure you do this before anything else, because any project management system, if you've used one in the past, if you don't go and edit these, you are going to get a ton of emails from the PM system. So if you come here, you'll see I have the option to turn all of these off. So you can see blue check mark means on, white check mark, gray check mark, whatever it is, that means it's turned off. So you want to make sure you go, and I would recommend you just turn all of your email notifications off. I live in ClickUp each and every day. I'll kind of go through sort of my morning routine a little bit so you know what that is. But it's like, I would recommend you get rid of all of your email notifications and just use the inbox here, which is basically ClickUp's native notifications menu that we'll walk through in this video as well. I don't use mobile app for this, so I can turn all these off if I want to, but just kind of go through and pare down these notifications, read through each of them of what you think you actually need. But oftentimes just leave the inbox ones on and turn everything else off, because my opinion, I don't need to get emails for all this stuff. So make sure you go through all of that. In addition, you can check some of these off. Like, I don't like to become a watcher on every single task because then you're gonna get notifications on all those tasks. But if you kind of want to be able to hover around, and if you're a manager of an organization, that might be very helpful for you. But again, be thinking about things like that. Go adjust your notification settings there. In addition, these are sort of my workspace settings. Again, these are personal. So if you're an admin of your workspace, you'll be able to see some of this. If I come up here, you'll see settings here. I can adjust this, turn to white label, whatever. But the most important one is going to be people here to manage your team. So what I can do is if I get lonely in my ClickUp workspace and I want to add people to it, I can come here, invite by email, either a member, a guest, or an admin. The cool part about guests is they are free. As you'll see, I have 30 external guests. Those are really going to add by 5 each time you invite a new member of your team into your ClickUp workspace. So that's kind of how the guests work. Those are free. It's really helpful for inviting freelancers, contractors, or even your clients if you want to collaborate with them, but only in certain locations within your ClickUp workspace. It's very helpful to have that option to save you some money. But just know if you do invite new team members and you're on a paid plan, that's going to start to charge you. So just take note of that as you add a bunch of people to your ClickUp workspace. From there, also, in addition, a few things to take note of are task types. We do have a video on task types. This is a new feature inside of ClickUp 3.0 that kind of allows you to create different task types. So maybe some records that you have if you're building something like a CRM inside of ClickUp. So there's another video on there that I'll link in the description of this video below that you can watch if you're interested in how we use task types. Also think about things like ClickApps, which we'll go over when we actually go create a space. But ClickApps are basically functions or features within ClickUp that you can turn on or off. So things like time tracking or time estimates, I can actually turn that off if I don't want to have time estimates and I don't want to track time in ClickUp. So just read through all of these. They're very important because you can turn things on and off in ClickUp, which is super cool. But then people get kind of lost if they don't know what ClickApps actually are. In addition here, you'll want to think about some integrations, which you can go to the App Center here. So I like to integrate things like Slack because then I can send notifications to Slack if I want to see them there. Also Google Drive, Calendar. You can use universal search inside of ClickUp to search through your Google Drive, which is awesome. But you'll want to think about sort of the integrations and things that you want to set up, whether it be like notifications or sending tasks back and forth through things like HubSpot. So go through these and integrate some of your tools as well that you have within your tech stack. After that, there's a few other things that you can go through as well if you want to, but those are the most important. After that, let's go back and let's actually talk about setting up things inside of ClickUp. So to actually set things up, as you'll see here, this is my menu that I have, home, inbox, my docs, my dashboards, whiteboards, and I can also sort of pin things or turn things off if I don't want them here in my menu, but it's very easy to create a space. All you're going to need to do is go here and click create space to actually get something set up. But before we do that, it's super important to understand how the hierarchy in ClickUp actually works, because this is what's going to give us a lot of value in the future. If we set the hierarchy up correctly, that's going to help us with views, visibility, and any reporting we're going to need in the future. So we need to make sure that we understand the ClickUp hierarchy and have some sort of strategy going into it before we set all of this up. So to do that, I'm going to go over sort of what the hierarchy looks like inside of ClickUp. So at the highest level, that's going to be your workspace. So every organization has a ClickUp workspace. As you can see mine here, it's labeled Dunder Mifflin. That's my business. So from the workspace, if you want to see everything across your workspace, which we'll get in a little bit more when we talk about views, but you can go to the everything level here. It shows it's kind of like a space, but it's not really a space. It's just kind of a way to see all the work across all of your workspace as you get a bunch of spaces in here. After the workspace, as we talked about, is our spaces. The way that I like to use spaces is these become sort of like departments within your organization. So to give you an example, I'll pull up a real ClickUp workspace that actually has stuff in it. But for me, as you can see here, I have growth, which is sort of my sales and marketing team. I have delivery, which is all my client services. And then I have operations, which is basically everything else where like my recruiting tasks would live, where my finance tasks would live, so on and so forth. So you can kind of set up your spaces that way. I also have a CRM and process library, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But that's sort of how your spaces would be set up. Again, it's going to be different for every organization, depending on sort of how you work and how your work is organized. Sometimes spaces can just be for teams if you're in a larger organization, but some client services, businesses, that's how I'd recommend that you set it up. So again, those are kind of like larger departments within your organization. Under spaces, we then have folders and lists. And so folders don't need to exist. A list can live on its own outside of a folder, but folders are very helpful because they're kind of a ways to create a smaller maybe department or category within that space. So the way that I would look at it, and again, I'll go back to this example, is with growth. So that's sort of my growth department, my growth team. Within that, I then have a folder for marketing and a folder for sales. So my marketing team is going to work within this folder. My sales team is going to work within that folder. And so that's very helpful because as we get into views, we'll kind of talk about how that all works together. But that means then if I go to the growth space, I'm able to see all of my work across marketing and sales because it's all within one space. So that's kind of how I would look at it. Client services is going to be a little bit different. As you can see in this delivery space, I have folders for all of my clients. That's just a way to group all of that work together so it's all kind of combined in one spot. So think about folders. Again, folders don't need to be used, but they are very helpful to kind of create a smaller department or just be able to categorize it and bring that work together across multiple lists. So think about using folders and how you would do that. I gave you a few examples there, but then lists are where the work actually lives. So a list is kind of then within that smaller folder department, however we want to call it. A list then becomes sort of the service or work category within that. So a list can be, how I like to use it, is a work category or a larger project. So if I go back to my example here within my growth, remember we have marketing and sales, those are my folders. And then marketing, I then have sort of those work categories. So we have website, we have content, we have email. And sales, we have prospecting, we have deals. So then you're kind of breaking the marketing down into multiple lists just like that, but then they're all grouped together by this marketing folder as well. So again, lists are where the work is actually going to live inside of my ClickUp workspace. And then after lists, we have tasks, sort of our parent tasks here. We have subtasks, and we also have checklists. So the way that I like to use parent tasks, subtasks, and checklists is if I come here, I'll give you an example. We have in Dunder Mifflin, the parent tasks, the way that I use this, they can either be a standalone task inside of ClickUp, or a parent task can be sort of a deliverable or milestone within a project. So as you can see here, if I'm in client services, again, this will work kind of the same way for anything, but the way that I have this here is that the deliverable is the parent task. So our case study, that's what we're doing. That's sort of the way that I'm going to bring all of this work together of how to actually complete this case study. So parent task here, that's my deliverable. Then the subtasks are all of the steps to complete that deliverable. So as you can see here, all of these are signed out, and this is how we're going to pass work back and forth across our team. So it's kind of a way of grouping all of that work together. That's how we're going to use parent tasks inside of the system. In addition, if it's just a smaller task that's not a part of a higher level deliverable, parent task can just live on its own and act really as an actionable task. Otherwise, it's going to sort of group together all these subtasks, which this is the actionable work that we're doing to complete this deliverable. In addition, if this was a larger project, and I'll show you sort of what this looks like in my process library, but say we're doing a website redesign for a client, I could break those parent tasks now into phases within that project. So as you can see here, content, design, development, launch, post-launch, these are all phases within a website project. That's also how parent tasks can be used. So they become phases or milestones, and then all the subtasks, again, are then the steps to complete that milestone or phase, just like that. So there's a lot of different ways that you can use parent tasks and subtasks. That's what I would recommend. Again, remember, parent tasks can be completely on their own if it's a smaller task, or they're kind of a ways to categorize and bring all of that work together. In addition, we talked about the last thing is going to be our checklists. So the way that the checklist could work is a checklist is essentially a reminder for people to not forget to do certain things. So if I come back here to my example within Dunder Mifflin, I can use a checklist within any of these tasks. If there was one, the checklist would live right here, and it basically say, don't forget to do this, this, and this. So you kind of add some process to those tasks to, again, make sure that there's some reminders for your team to not forget to do things. So it just kind of increases the accountability for people and make sure that they don't forget to do things that are within your process that you have for them as they complete that task. So that's the hierarchy. Again, remember, we have Workspace, which is the highest level. We then have spaces. We then have folders. We have lists, parent tasks, subtasks, and checklists within all of those tasks. So to actually go and set that up, let's go back to sort of our brand new workspace that we have here. We can go and start to actually build out a space. So I'm going to go here, create a space. And now you can go and enter the space name. So this one we'll just call growth. Let's follow that example. And now I can either choose to make it private or show it to my whole workspace. I'm just going to show it to my whole workspace. I'm really the only one in here, so it doesn't matter. But I'll click next. And now this is a big topic to talk about, because statuses are something that a lot of people have disagreements on how to actually use them. So most people use statuses in their project management system to really pass work back and forth. But remember, in my example that I had here, I'm passing my work back and forth between subtasks. So I don't really need to use the status as much as some people would. And what I mean by that is a lot of people will come here and instead of having a parent task subtask structure, they just have a parent task labeled case study. And within that parent task, it's assigned to 5 different people. And then they use the status to kind of pass that work back and forth. So instead of having these options, it might be content phase or copy phase or review phase. And then they kind of use the status to say, hey, now it's your turn to work on this. Now it's your turn to work on this. Now it's your turn to work on this. What that does is you lose a little bit of visibility. It's not going to help with your time estimates and actually tracking time. And then work will just slip through the cracks, because if you have multiple assignees on something, no one really knows if it's their turn to do it. So that can be stressful. I'd highly recommend that you use the parent task and subtask structure as opposed to you kind of going through and having multiple assignees on one task and using the status to pass work back and forth. The way that I would use statuses is it's helpful, especially when we get into views and things like that, is the statuses are really only used at the parent task level unless it's something that's blocked. Or you can label it in progress as you're doing it if you want to. But most of these are going to be pretty small bite-sized pieces for these tasks. But what I would do and what I would recommend is when you complete a task, say you send something to the client for review, I can close that task out in the subtasks. I can come to the parent task and label it as in client review. That way, if someone comes to this, they can kind of see where everything is. It's in client review or this one's in progress. And so I can kind of just see at the parent task level as opposed to going all the subtasks and seeing a bunch of different statuses. So that's just what I would recommend. It can be very helpful. All I'd recommend is just don't get too hung up on statuses. Make them simple to start. And if you do have some, just make sure that your whole team knows what each status means. That way they don't have any anxiety when it comes to changing up the status. But most of the time, what you need to do is 99% of the time, your statuses should either be to do or complete. So you shouldn't have any complexity really in there. Don't have a bunch of different statuses per team. That's going to increase complexity within your workspace, make it hard to report on some things in the future. So what I recommend, just keep it simple. I'll just use this one normal here. It's just either open, which is to do, in progress, or this is closed. So I'm just going to use that. Again, I would just recommend you kind of create a template, choose your options for what you want your statuses to be, and just keep that consistent across your ClickUp workspace. So from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click next. And now here is where we get into the ClickApps, which I had mentioned earlier. So again, these are additional sort of features that can be turned on or off within ClickUp. So as you see, there's a bunch of different options here that I can choose from. We have priorities, sprints, email, tag, multiple signees, custom fields, time tracking, so on and so forth. These are things I would keep simple at first. Don't get too advanced. Don't try to do all of them all at once. Try to figure them out sort of what you actually need within that space. They have good sort of labels here for sort of what you might need to start. Like these are the ones that are turned on. These are the ones that would be turned off. If I'm not running in sprints, I don't need that one on. If I want to send emails from tasks, I can turn that on. Some that I'd recommend are at least custom fields, time tracking if you want to time track inside of ClickUp, and then turn on time estimates here as well if you want to see the time estimates within your workload view and actually use time estimates inside of ClickUp, which I would recommend. It's very helpful, especially when you want to actually see workload and capacity for your team. You need to make sure that time estimates are turned on. So from there, again, go through all these, kind of figure out what you want, what you don't want. ClickUp has great documentation on what all of these ClickApps mean and how they're used. But from there, we can go ahead and click next, just like that. So now we get into the views. And as you can see here, the views have a bunch of different options. You can always add these views after, but if you want it to be sort of built into your space right away, you can make sure that these are toggled on. I just kind of like to go with, let's just start with a list view, and then after that, I can add on stuff as I want it and as I see fit. So again, keeping it simple, not going too crazy from the start. And from there, we're going to review the space, and then we can go ahead and create that space just like this. So very easy to do all that. If you want to go back to something, say I want to enter a space description there, I want to change the color of this, which I did edit that color from the start, and you can add sort of a little avatar there. You can upload one if you want, but from there, let's say we go ahead and create that space just like that. So now, as you'll see, once you go and create that space, it's automatically going to go and add a list, because ClickUp always wants you to have a place to actually put those tasks, because a space without anything else doesn't really do much. You need to have a list in there, because a list, as I mentioned, are where the tasks are actually going to live. So if I come here, I can leave this list unless I want to start to add folders. As you'll see, every time you create one of these, it's going to say, hey, do you want to start from scratch, or do you want to inherit the statuses, views, automations, custom fields from a certain location? So I'd always just say, just keep it consistent. Again, let's just inherit those statuses so we don't have to start new statuses. You don't want to have a bunch of different statuses throughout your workspace. So let's just go ahead and click apply. As you can see, I have a very basic, just a list view here in each of these. However, for me, what I want to do is I want to go add a folder. Again, these are sort of the smaller level departments within the growth. If that's a team, if that's a larger department, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to make a sales folder just like that. And then I'm also going to go ahead and create a marketing folder as well. So from here, it's important to note too that you can, and I have a video on this as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about templates later in this video, but you can, instead of having to create all this from scratch, you can create ClickUp templates. So as you can see here, if I come here to templates, I can browse templates. ClickUp has their own templates within the ClickUp Template Center here, but you can also go ahead and create your own if you want to, which we'll talk about a little bit and how to do that in a second. But if you don't want to have to go create all of this from scratch each and every time, you can go and you can build templates at any level in the hierarchy. So I can create a folder template, I can create a list template, I can create a task template, a checklist template, a view template, doc template, whatever it may be, you can really build that inside of ClickUp. But I don't need this list here, so let's go ahead and delete that one just like that. But now you'll see I have my sales folder, my marketing folder. Let's say I want to change this to website. And then I want to add another list just like this. And I'm going to label this one content. And there we go. So if I want to add additional sort of categories within my marketing department here, I could, but I'm just going to leave it just like that. As you'll see, every time you add something, if it's not coming from a template, it's always going to say start from scratch or inherit statuses or inherit views, automations. So you always want to just go and apply that just like that, and then we're good to go. So that's sort of the first step, is going and creating our hierarchy. And then obviously then you can go and start adding tasks to these locations. But I highly recommend you go and build your hierarchy first so that the structure is set up, because it's important to get that structure correct right off the bat. Because again, that's going to play in with everything in terms of visibility, with your views, with your dashboards. The hierarchy is really going to be what helps you in the long run. So you want to make sure you kind of strategize that before you jump into ClickUp. You want to make sure it's built out for you and your team to make sure it's all in the right sort of departments or the right sections for things like time tracking, to get that data that you need as a business owner, especially. And so now that we've gone and set up a little bit of our structure here with at least just one space, before we start to go add tasks, let's talk about how views are going to work here inside of ClickUp. And actually, before I jump into that, let me tell you one more thing about this. As you can see here, I can go and actually hide some of these spaces. So if you want to, you can, like if you have a bunch here and you don't need to see them, you go ahead and hide that space. Just know, like, you'll think it disappeared, but really all you need to do is go to view all spaces. And as you get a bunch in here, there might be some here that are hidden or shown. Just make sure you look at that. You can come back here and click show again, and then it's going to pop up just like that. It'll be back. But again, you can hide these spaces if you don't want to see them there. But oftentimes I wouldn't do that unless you have a ton of spaces in here that are relevant to you. Then you can go ahead and hide some of them. But just take note of that. Inform your team that through that they might have some spaces that are hidden. Just go and make sure that they go to view all spaces and they can see all of them here. Go ahead and click show, and then they'll be good to go. But from here, let's start to talk about views and how they work. So views are going to work alongside your ClickUp hierarchy here. So as you can see here, in my next sort of image, we have a workspace space. This is our hierarchy, folders, lists. And the way that views work is they can be built at any level inside of your ClickUp hierarchy. So I can create a view at the workspace, which right here, as you'll see, is the everything level. I can also create a view at the space. I can create a view at the folder, create a view at the list. I can't create a view at a task because the task lives in the list, but those are kind of the places that we can create a view. You can also create a bunch of different types of views. So if you come here to add a view, just like this, I can go through list, board, calendar, Gantt, timeline, team, all the way down to actually embedding something. I create forms, chats, docs, whiteboards, so a lot of different options. That's really the pro of ClickUp here. It can also be the con again, because you can basically take the data inside of ClickUp and view it really any way that you want. So based off your personality type or maybe your role within the company, some people might like Gantt views, some people might like timelines, some people might lists, or even boards. So you can really change how you're viewing the information inside of ClickUp that way. So if you want to go ahead and create your first view, you can just go like that. You can go to actually add a list view. Take note, you can make it private or public. It's going to be public unless you make it private. And what that does, and this is important to note for anyone inside of ClickUp, is a public view is viewable by anyone in the workspace. So if I go ahead and create a public view just like that, all of this information and all of these settings, everyone can see this inside of ClickUp. So they can go and they can also edit a bunch of this stuff as well. Unless you pare that down, if you were to go to more settings, you can kind of protect this view if you want to make sure that no one goes and edits it. So that's something that you can think about too and turn that on if you have a bunch of team members that go and they edit a bunch of these. But just realize that anyone can come here. They can change these settings if that's not turned on. They'll see this. They can come in here and this view is visible to anyone unless you come here and go to more settings and make this a private view. If it's a private view, what that does is now only I can see this view. So I can adjust these settings. No one that logs in is going to see this. Only I will be able to see it. And you'll know that by the little lock on here. The lock means that this view is private to just you, so no one else will be able to see it. And the big important pieces of views, and this is why I always talk about how important the hierarchy is within ClickUp, is now the way that views work is I can create a view at the everything level here, and that means I can see work across my whole ClickUp workspace. So across all of these spaces, if I create a view at the everything level, I can see work across all those spaces. If I create a view here at the space level, I can then see work across all of these folders and lists within those folders. If I create a view here at the folder level, I can only see work within this list. And so that's why it's important to make sure you put these in a correct hierarchies, because then if I want to, if I'm the manager of or the head of growth here, I can see work across my sales and marketing teams by going here and creating a view at the growth space. Or if I'm just the head of sales here, I can create a view and see work across my whole sales department. If I'm the head of marketing, I can do the same. If I'm just involved in a website, I can just come and create a view here and only see work within the website lists just like that. So views are super powerful, but they can also get a bit confusing because they can be created at any level in the hierarchy, and they can also have a lot of filters and settings that are set up in each view that can catch people a little off guard, which I'll get to in a moment. But so now that we understand views a little bit, let's actually start to create some tasks so we can see how views work with those tasks. And then we'll talk about custom fields, which then even transform our views a little bit more. So if I want to go set up a task, as I mentioned, the structure that I like to follow is we have our parent task. This is going to be the deliverable that I'm working on, or again, it might be a phase or a milestone within a project. So I can go to my website list right here in the marketing folder within the growth space, and I can go ahead and start setting this up. And so to add a task, there's pretty easy. You can either go to that list and you'll just go to add a task. So as you can see here, it says task name. I just go and start typing. I can also come up here and add a task just like this. If I have hotkeys turned on, I can also click T to start adding a task that way. So a lot of different options to create a task. You also see this up here. So endless possibilities for creating tasks in ClickUp. It's very easy. So I come here to this website list, and now I want to start setting up something in this website list. So let's say we're working on a website landing page. So all I need to do is type in website landing page. Again, that is my deliverable that our team is going to work on. So within that website landing page, now I need to start to build in the steps to complete that website landing page. So the first one might be draft together a strategy document and send for review. So just like that, that's sort of the first step that'll be assigned to someone. Let's just assign that to myself. I can put a due date on there. Let's say that this is due tomorrow. And then if I wanted to, I can also put a time estimate, which I would go over here and set up, delete draft there, go to add a new column, time estimate, just like this. And if I want to, we can drag this over. I can set a time estimate of 30 minutes, if that's how long it's going to take. So from there, then I can also go add another subtask just like this. So let's say that the next task is review, strategy, document, and approve. So let's say that's going to be assigned to someone. Now we'll go ahead and add another task. Maybe this one is draft copy for a landing page. And then after that, maybe we're doing review, copy for a landing page. And then after that, they reviewed it. Maybe we need to make revisions to copy for a landing page. And then after that, it's approve landing page, copy. And then now maybe we're starting to work on the design part of it. So maybe now it's create graphics for landing page. And then it just keeps going on. So you kind of build your workflow there, and then all these tasks are going to be assigned out to different people with different time estimates here of however long it's going to take, with due dates, just to make sure that all of that work gets done across the team. And so that's super powerful. It's a great way to set this up, because if I just had website landing page as my parent task, I assign multiple people to it, and I use the status as kind of a way to pass work back and forth. It's not going to make it accurate for people. They're not going to know what they're in charge of. Actually, it's very helpful to have sort of that workflow and that process here for how things actually get done and sort of which step you're in charge of. As they go and do this, they can go ahead and close it as they're done with it. So it makes it super easy for the team. In addition, let's just say I had a task in sales here. I'll just add one here so we can kind of see how views work. So let's just say task, just like that. And then I'll assign this to myself with a due date of tomorrow as well. And if I wanted to add a time estimate and things, I could. So let's now talk about how we then show this work to everyone on the team without them having to come to all of these different lists to find it. So as you can see, I have work in this list as well. Let's just go ahead and assign these to me. One thing to note with this, if you want to assign a bunch of tasks to people or add custom fields, what you can do is you actually go grab a bunch of tasks just like this. And if I want to assign this all to me like that, I could do that. If I wanted to set dates like that, I could. So this is the multi-select toolbar inside of ClickUp. You can also copy to clipboard if you wanted to, add custom fields, which I don't have any in my workspace right now, but that is the options. The multi-select toolbar will save you a lot of time here inside of ClickUp. So that's going to be my first step. Again, we have all this sort of set up. Let's add some additional due dates to this. Let's just say that that's Monday. This is going to be Tuesday, so on and so forth. So we can get that all signed out later on, but let's talk about the power of views now. So you can, if you wanted to, you can use your homepage here, which this is going to roll up all of your work into it. If you wanted to, you can manage cards, just kind of choose what you want your homepage to look like. But what I want to do and what I recommend is you go to the everything level right here and you start to create views for people to just see all of their work. So this is why views come into play, especially for different sort of levels in your organization, whether it's individual contributors, project managers, account managers, or leadership. You can create a bunch of different views for different people based off of what they actually need to look at. So I come here to the everything level. Again, this is going to show me work across my whole workspace. If I had growth space, operations, delivery, or whatever spaces you may have, and I have work for myself in all of those different spaces, and I want to just see the work that's assigned to me, I could come to the everything level, create a view here just like this, and then I could rename this. Let's just say, or you can go add a new view if you wanted to, but I'll just use the one that I created earlier. I'm going to label this as my tasks, just like this. Auto save that view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to group by due date, just so I pull just the due dates of those tasks. I'm going to do subtasks as separate tasks, just like that. And then what I can do is go and add a filter. So these are how you can kind of adjust your views and just make them very custom to what you want to see. And now this is where I can say assignee is myself. So what that's going to do is it's just going to pull the tasks that are assigned to me. And so now I have my task view just like this. So I'm not seeing and getting distracted by all the other work inside of the system. So as you can see, I have the work from both the growth or from the sales and marketing folders here all in one place. So in addition to this view, what I can do is I can customize this a little bit, add some options. So if I wanted to show the task locations, as you can see, that'll show me the breadcrumbs where this task actually lives. I can turn on the subtask parent names as well. So you kind of see that this draft together strategy document central review is a part of the website landing page, just like that. In addition, what I can do is go add a column. I can add in time estimate. I can add in time tracked. That way I can have this view and I can come here, see my tasks, see that I'm assigned to it, see the due date, see or give me the ability to track time there, as well as see how long it should take So what I can do then is I can click into a task. As you'll see, I can navigate back to the parent task. And the parent task is where you'll communicate with your team. So I highly recommend when you build out workflows like that with a parent task and subtask structure, that your parent task then becomes sort of the hub for all of that communication to happen. So that's going to make it way easier for everyone to collaborate and have a central source of truth for this deliverable or for this project, because now I can come to this parent task and see all of it right here. And I can easily navigate from my task up to the parent task, either with this button right here or by just kind of seeing the whole workflow here and then navigating back to the parent task. So treat this as where you're going to comment and collaborate with your team. That's going to make it way easier for the team to have all the context that they're going to need when they actually go to do some of their tasks. So I'll show you what an example of that looks like here in a live workspace. So as you can see, there's obviously not that much here in my brand new workspace that I've set up. But if I come here to this one, there's obviously a lot more I'm working through here. We have a bunch of spaces set up and we're good to go here. But what I can see is if I go to my task view here, which I have it favorited at the top, which I'll show you how to do that in a second, but I'm going to see sort of all of my tasks in one place. So as I can see, it's across all of my whole workspace. I have a ton that's overdue right now, but then all the tasks are going to kind of go just like this, kind of how I had it set up in this workspace here. But the big part of this, again, as I was talking about, is the communication. So what I can do is I can come to one of my folders here and let's look at what it looks like when there's actually communication happening within parent task. So I've navigated down to the Dunder Mifflin folder. This is where we're doing work for Dunder Mifflin. I have this retainer XYZ list. And as you can see here, we have a blog post that we're writing for Dunder Mifflin. And if I click into this parent task, we'll see all of the communication is happening right here. So we have mentions of me. This is the first version of the blog post. The blog post actually lives within ClickUp here. We also have sort of the thumbnail for this blog post as well. And so the cool part about this too is I can click on this and I can add a comment and say, hey, I don't like the coloring here, or maybe I don't like the copy that's down here. I can actually mention specifically what is in this graphic, or if this is a video, I could also do the same thing. So this just keeps a central source of truth for all of your comments. So that's very easy for your team to collaborate and communicate in one place without them kind of having to stress about going to different systems and tools. It's all right here inside of ClickUp. So that's very powerful here. You want to make sure you kind of have that all set up and ready to go, and just train your team on how to sort of follow that workflow as well. And so a couple other things to mention here are going to be custom fields as well. And so we'll talk about custom fields and adding templates here to ClickUp. So custom fields are very powerful because they're going to play with your views as well. They're also going to help set up dashboards and all of that. So if I come here to this website list with these tasks, I can go ahead and I can add a custom field. And to add a custom field, all you need to do is go and add a column just like that. And you'll see all of the options that you have here on the right. You can also use an existing field if you had one in your workspace. But one thing to stress and the importance of custom fields here is that a custom field, just like a view, can be built at any level in your ClickUp hierarchy. So I can create one at a list, I can create one at a folder, I create one at a space, but I can also create one at my workspace. So if you're here at the everything level, you go to add a new column. And if you're add a custom field here, what that means is now you're adding a custom field to every task in your ClickUp workspace. So oftentimes you don't need that. I highly recommend that you don't get too crazy there. You just add custom fields at the highest level would be the space. That's why it's important, again, to create that structure, because if you do things in the future, like create a CRM system just like this, you'll see I have a bunch of custom fields here in this list. I have the status, service, health, objective, billing. And again, this is a CRM system. This is not really actionable tasks that we're doing. I don't need to have the status or the service or health or objective. I don't need those custom fields on all of my tasks living in the delivery, growth, or operation space. I only need them right here in this deals list and in the CRM space. So I want to make sure I don't create those at the everything or workspace level. So that's super important because, again, you don't want those custom fields living on every single task. You kind of want them just paired with sort of the space that they're living in. You're going to have some custom fields that live across different spaces, which you can just put them in the space and then it'll sort of replicate there for reporting purposes. But just make sure you don't go crazy and add anything to the workspace level, because it'll add that to every single task in the system. Well, let's create a custom field at the growth space, and let's show you kind of how this works, especially with views. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go to this view, just group by none. Let's just show all the subtasks as separate tasks. Let's auto-save this and kind of show you how to create a custom field and how you can use it. So we can go ahead and add a new column like this. Again, you have a lot of different options that you can use. I want to use a drop-down just like this. I'm going to go and add a column. Let's just say the field name is going to be example, just like that. And then my options are going to be option number 1, option number 2, and then maybe we'll do an option number 3 as well. So from there, we can go ahead and add a column just like that. And so now I have a drop-down custom field where I can label all of these tasks with this certain custom field. So if I come here, let's say I want to label this one as option 1, say I want to label this one as option 2, this one is option 3. As you can see, I don't have any colors on here. If I wanted to, I could go and add that just to make it a little bit more visually appealing here inside of ClickUp, just like that. So let's add some colors. As you'll see here, we have the option to go through all of these and label all of them with that custom field. What you can also do, if you wanted to use your multi-select toolbar, I can come up here and label all these with that custom field just like that. So very easy. I would highly recommend you use the multi-select toolbar because it's very, very powerful. In addition, now what I can do is, let's finish labeling all these, is I'm able to use this for views inside of ClickUp. So this then becomes a custom field on each of these tasks. Now, if I wanted to, if I only wanted to see the option 2 tasks, I could come up here, I could create a view, I can go to filters, I can go to example. That's going to be the custom field that I'm using. Example is option 1, and now I'm only seeing the option 1 tasks. If I wanted to switch that to option 2, I'm only seeing option 2 tasks. If I wanted to do option 3, I could do that as well. So you can use these for filters within views as well as dashboards. So that's very important to note. Just take note of that, because additionally what this does is it's a huge pro, but it's also a con, because some people will come to this view and they think that some of the tasks are lost, and they think, okay, did I delete these tasks? Did I archive these tasks? And no, that's not necessarily the case. You might just have a filter applied to that view. As you can see, if I turn this filter off, all of those tasks are going to come back and we're going to see it that way. So just be wary of that. Like, some people get super nervous when they go into ClickUp, they create these views and they have all these different custom fields on them. They use filters and then they think some of those tasks are lost. Remember, views are not where the information is living. They're just a way to view the information or the data that you have in your system. So a view is not going to affect deleting tasks by any means. It's just kind of a way to view everything that you have here inside of ClickUp. So the tasks and everything actually lives within these lists, and then the views at the top are just kind of ways to view the information in different ways, however you want. And that's really where the power of custom fields comes in, because again, you can use these for filters. One other thing to note about custom fields, as you'll see here, I can come to this field and I can hide this column. I don't want to remove from list because that's actually going to delete the custom field and all the values on here. But if I hide the column, now it's gone. And so people think that because I hid that column, that is not living on the task anymore. They think that this no longer has that custom field applied to it, but that's wrong. If you come here to the task, look at the details, you'll see that the custom field is still applied to this. It's not actually disappeared. It's still there. I'm just not seeing that in this particular view. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead, add the column right back, go to show hide, search for example, and you'll see that custom field is still living on those tasks. It was just hidden from this particular view. So there's a lot that goes into views. Again, you have a lot of different view options that you can investigate and look through and kind of determine what you like. But there's also a lot of settings and filters, and you can customize each of these views to sort of tailor it to how you want to use it. So that's why it's super powerful inside of ClickUp, because again, your views work within the hierarchy, but then if you want to filter it down to specific things, you can use the custom fields for that as well. And so the last thing really in ClickUp and how you're going to get super productive in the system is using the template center. And so we highlighted it a little bit. As I mentioned, I have a video that you can watch that goes through all of this, but I'll highlight it very, very quickly. As I mentioned, there is a template center here inside of ClickUp. And so as we went through and I built out this website landing page tasks, that seems very tedious. It will take a while if I have to do that from scratch every single time. So what I'm able to do is I'll go to my live workspace here, is I can create a process library inside of ClickUp. And so anyone watching this video, I highly recommend what you do first before you do anything here is you go and you set up a process library just like this. So the process library is going to be important because this will store all of your source files for the templates in the template center. So ClickUp's template center is great, but you can't go and edit the templates that are in the template center. You need to have those somewhere located inside of your ClickUp workspace to actually be able to go and update and edit them at all. So as you'll see here, we walk through this process library a little bit. All you need to do is set up a couple folders to kind of organize your templates. I kind of recommend setting up folders to replicate sort of your hierarchy that you have here to just organize your templates. But you'll see here, again, I can create a template at any level in the hierarchy. If you want to learn more about that, go watch the template center video that I have up here on our channel. It'll be helpful for that. I'm going to walk through some of these and how they're set up. But as you can see here, I have a bunch of different lists for different services that we offer for clients if I'm in a client services firm here. But as you'll see, I have a bunch of different parent tasks with subtasks underneath it. So if I'm someone that does the website landing page over and over and over again, and I want to have this all set up and ready to go for me rather than me having to draft it up and write it from scratch, what I can do is I can go ahead and set up that process just like this with all the data involved in it instead of me having to build it from scratch every single time. So as I come here, and again, I'm following that same structure. I have my parent tasks here as my deliverables. I have my subtasks here as the steps necessary to complete that deliverable. I also have due dates in here. I have time estimates in here, and then I have custom fields in here as well. So all of that data is going to come with it. In addition, I have dependencies built in, which dependencies are super helpful when it comes to moving due dates, because I can use the dependencies to actually take a task, and basically if I drag this, everything else will come with it. So I can use that dependency. Again, that's another video I have up here on the channel if you want to watch that, of how I actually use the Gantt view to remap due dates. But as you can see here, this process, this workflow is all built and ready to go. It also has task descriptions. It has checklists in here. That's another thing I would recommend is you go and you build all of that. So this is kind of the workflow, but you're going to want to use the task descriptions to either explain to someone how they do this, or use it to link out to a template or an SOP or even a video of how to do something. That's going to be super important. Just make sure you get the process living where the work gets done. That's going to help your team be more productive. But use that task description field as a way to explain to someone, maybe they're new coming into doing this task, how to do it. That's going to make you way more scalable and make your team much more productive. But what I'm going to do is I take this, I create this as a template. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to templates, save this as a template just like that. I can enter blog posts, customize included items if I want to. Then I can go ahead and save this template. You can also make these public if you want to share them with other people. But what that does is now, instead of me having to kind of build this blog post from scratch every time, I can come here. I'll say, we're writing a blog post for the Michael Scott Paper Company. I come here into my list settings. I go to my templates. I browse my templates. I'm going to go here to task. I'm going to make sure I find my blog post template just like this. As you'll see, again, ClickUp has a lot of templates in here you can leverage and use. And now I'm going to use this template. I can name it however I want to. If I want to customize that to the actual blog post name, I can remap the dates too, which makes it super powerful. I'll come here. Let's say this is going to be due on the 29th of December, and then I'm going to use that template. So basically what that does is instead of me having to go build it from scratch every single time, I now have that template and it's going to load directly here inside of ClickUp just like that. So now you'll see the whole task is all built out and ready to go for me. And what I can do now is I can also come here and I can go, what I have created is an assignee view. And what this assignee view is doing, again, this is where the power of ClickUp really comes into play, is now what I can do is, remember I had in that process library, I had a deliverable custom field applied to all those tasks. Now I can group all those tasks by this deliverable, and then I can use this multi-select toolbar, select all of the tasks that should be assigned to a strategist. I can come up here and assign this, and then that's going to allow me to assign all the strategist tasks to someone. I can assign all the copywriter tasks to someone, designer tasks, account manager. So it makes it way easier for me to create work and assign it out to my team. So that's kind of a great way for you to get running. Again, go build a process library, kind of document and structure all of your workflows for things that you do on a repeating basis. Build all of those in there, save them as templates, and then you'll be able to make that way more scalable so that you don't have to go and create a process like this from scratch every single time. So super helpful on the productivity side of things. Definitely recommend you go create a process library, and that's how you'll get work done faster and make your team way more productive in the system. And then lastly, to round out this video, I want to talk about a little bit of my morning routine of what I do every single morning. So again, I'm really just leveraging two different assets. One of those is going to be my task view, where I'm going to come through here and I'm going to see my work As you can see, what you can do is you can actually favorite views. So if I unfavorite that like that and then favorite it again, that's going to pin this view to the top of my screen. So it basically creates a bookmark for me. So what I do every morning is I go to my task view and I look to see what work is on my plate. Want to make sure I get that overdue work done before anything else. So I'm going to have to go through, I'm going to complete that work. As you'll see, I'll click on the task, do the task. I'm going to track my time like this. Come here, I can set the timer. I can do it manual or choose arrange. And then in addition, I take that and I look at my inbox here as well to make sure I'm not missing anything. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to my inbox, look at sort of where I was mentioned in a comment, and then I'll be able to communicate with my team here as well. So I'll be able to click in this. I'll see sort of my inbox here. I can pull up the details for this task as well to see what task this is actually living on. I can go over here to activity to see if there's anything additional that I need to take note of. And then I can actually leave a reply just like this inside of that thread. As I mentioned, I can click on this and I can leave a comment just like that as well. So super powerful. Again, your morning routine, you want to live in ClickUp, go to ClickUp, see your task view, go through there, start completing your tasks, and come here to see sort of your notifications and sort of who left a comment to you. You can also look in the other if there's anything in here as well. And then as you go, all you need to do, you can go, and as I complete this, I can clear it just like that using the E on my keyboard, or you'll see it over here as well to be able to clear just like that. So it's important, make sure you clear your notifications every single day, because if you don't, then that's where things start to get lost. But make sure you have your notifications all set up like that, and you use your My Task view, and you get everything set up, ready to go for your team and launch in the system. It's going to make you way more productive, way more profitable as a business, and make your lives so much easier. And there you have it. That's how you get ClickUp up and running for your business. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And if you like this video, please go and hit subscribe so that you're notified the next time we drop another ClickUp video. And if you need help getting ClickUp set up or training your team on how to actually use it, go to ZenPilot.com/call and book a call with one of our experts. At ZenPilot, we are ClickUp's first and highest rated solutions partner, having served over 2,700 different teams to streamline their operations in ClickUp, and we love to do the same for you. Again, thanks for watching this video. Go ahead and hit subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.
Can I make no more? I can't replace it. Trying hard just not to waste it. It's about time. Yeah, it's about time.